already happened in Los Angeles County is unimaginable.
Yeah. Live from the firestorm, spies with a wire on. Snitch on yourself when your take is hot and your title wrong. How come the loudest opinion's always the less informed? I've been hearing liars pretend they're fighters since I was born. Armchair experts, X accounts, and an ego trip. Fact checkers out of the metaverse, we can see the flip. Boomers on your coach turn a vertical to a sinking ship. Boom like they Hogan, the Hulkster has always been a bitch. Is Justin, this'll ruin a tour. Reality TV peaked at a funeral, give that the award. Topsy-turvy world, stocks fall with better reports. Look fantastic on my outside, shifting like my gear is in 4. Oh my god, no one need a Bryant? Where the party at? Surrounded by the flames out in Cali, hoping the heat'll pass. All I got is gas, these conspiracies from these fucking hacks. Build a podcast saying DEI, let the eating match. Failed entertainers who think California's that pavement in WeHo where they didn't make it, this shit was boring. Even Barrett breaking from Kavanaugh, Alito, and Gorsuch. I know you hedging bets, Mark hoping Rogan endorsements get you out of fines. I can see the signs, here's another Vine, here's another Bush. We repeating time, here's a million lies. Here's a new resign, here's a new goodbye. Here's another cliffhanger mid-season, I'll start to climb. I see you nervous. Can he take over Greenland? Guy who can barely block a budget, take over the region. Long fucking 4 years if we gon' believe all the speeches he gives every weekend to rile up the people who see him. I'm off the cuff like the president out in South Korea. I've been on fire since last year, no policy neither. And if I gotta evacuate from these fires, I'ma stay engaged with my flame ready here like the news and Dyer. Oh! She's engaged? Oh my god! Britain's taking everything. So I got one of those little handheld like Anbernic like game devices, and I've been enjoying it a lot. I have a Steam Deck already. It's really nice. I like playing it and kind of reliving old games from my past. It's great. Also, my city is still completely on fire. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please hit that like button like you changed your molecular structure by using your stretchy powers to give yourself more strength, like you were some anime character who was going into his 4th gear, but actually you were invented in the 1960s. But this version of you kind of seems inspired by that anime character due to a really cool snowman in the middle of the game that has the same hat as one of his crew members. Why the fuck is this such a big deal? And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. First off, hi, first Freestyle of the News of 2025. Also, what the fuck is this debate? What is to be gained? This is a legitimate message I saw from a human being about these characters. Comics are way more cool than pretending to be Japanese and watching weird dubbed cartoons made for an entirely different culture just because you want to be unique. I don't watch manga and I don't read anime. Ooh, what a fucking badass over here. For the record, yes, that was a serious message. I thought it was sarcasm when he mixed watch and read, but no, my dude was double and tripling down. So for those of you who don't know, this is Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four, Marvel Comics. He's going to be played by Pedro Pascal in the film. And this is Monkey D. Luffy, the titular character of One Piece, one of the greatest global stories ever told. They're both incredibly well-known characters with stretchy powers, and a lot of people think the design of Reed Richards in this Marvel Rivals game that everybody's playing seems like it's inspired by this design of Monkey D. Luffy in Gear 4, one of his super cool transformations that he has. Reed Richards came out a long time ago, and Luffy has a similar power. Clearly, some of Luffy's stuff was inspired by Reed, and the guys who make the Marvel Rivals game probably wanted to interpolate it from there. It's not hard to go, hey, the guys from Marvel Rivals may like One Piece, and they designed Reed in this full circle kind of homage moment of the inspiration of this character's power, paying homage to the character that they inspired. Or you could be a weird loser about it and get super offended that anybody would compare this filthy anime trash to this beautiful man Reed Richards. Actually, when they were coming up with the design for Reed back in the day, he was actually inspired by nobody fucking cares, Jonathan. Shut up. Call your mom. I swear to God, at a certain point, media just becomes a thing for people not to like enjoy or learn from or get something from, but to compare how much better they are because they chose the right thing. It's a fucking video game. calm down. Also, a Monkey D. Luffy skin would go fucking hard on this. It would go so hard. I'm gonna give you an update on that and a bunch of other insane news, but I wanted to thank everybody for an amazing year in 2024. It was the biggest year I've had doing this, and I'm really excited of what we're gonna get up to this year, even though it's fucking gonna be a challenge, I know. But enough of that. Let's get into this breakdown. So first off, I'm gonna let everybody know ahead of time, this is a big show. Our major story that we're gonna have was actually recorded on Friday. I was gonna drop it then, but I moved it to Sunday because I think it's relevant enough and a lot of people have been asking me questions about it. It covers a lot of stuff going on with Trump's intermission, what to expect from 2025. I think it's really, really important. It also touches on the Meta fact checker story. Again, it's just a primer before we get into the meat and potatoes of the year. But before we get into that, let's talk about TikTok. Primarily the TikTok ban, because the Supreme Court heard arguments this week on the TikTok ban and whether or not they would let that ban go through on January 19th, effectively killing support for the app in the United States. Now, it's important to know if the ban went through, it wouldn't mean TikTok would just immediately stop working, but that over time it would just kind of peter out because it would be removed from the App Store, so you wouldn't be able to download it, and people who already had it downloaded would no longer receive updates. So look, with the size of TikTok and the amount of people who use it and the people who make their living off of it, this was a important court case. So how did it go?
The problem I think you're articulating is that you want to use ByteDance's algorithm and therefore associate with ByteDance, and Congress has prohibited that by requiring divestiture. So isn't this really a right of association case under the First Amendment?
I think it's both, Your Honor.
So right off the bat, a majority of the justices seem very intent on making this less of a free speech case and more of a case about ByteDance's divestiture, saying that since TikTok LLC is an American company, the biggest issue seems to be ByteDance, and so it is a choice to use ByteDance's algorithm, and therefore they're doing it to themselves, like it's a choice for them to get banned in the United States. But look, you also had quite a few questions regarding the Chinese government's influence on TikTok and what it's saying to many people who are using the app.
That they would use that information over time to develop spies, to turn people, to blackmail people, people who a generation from now will be working in the FBI or the CIA or in the State Department. Is that not a realistic assessment by Congress and the President of the risks here?
Well, Your Honor, I'm not disputing the risks. I'm disputing the means that they have chosen.
And that's not to say there wasn't any pushback to people who were trying to get TikTok banned, because Neil Gorsuch also went after them a little bit too.
Simply silence American voices. Newspaper owned by a foreign company and a foreign government. You wouldn't know when it's exercising editorial discretion about this article or that article, or how it's doing it, so maybe we just need to shut down the Oxford University Press in America, or you pick it, any other foreign-owned Politico, I was told today, is owned by Germany.
But look, overall, across the board, it did not go super well for TikTok, all right? A lot of the headlines are reporting like this is some foregone conclusion because it felt like a lot of the justices were trying to make this a case as a ByteDance problem. Not a TikTok LLC problem, but a ByteDance, the Chinese company, problem, and trying to separate that argument from the free speech one. Now, I should note that Trump has signaled that he wants to save TikTok because it did well for him in the election, but even then, it's hard to know what might exactly happen with all this. And one thing I'm going to say on all this, primarily as somebody who got this job because of a TikTok he made and worked for a big company making TikToks for them for a while, obviously the community on TikTok is going to be hard to replicate on any other platform, right? This is not just vertical video. This is the type of comments and the type of content that's made and the way that content is presented. Those other vertical video platforms have different cadences and structures. Their audiences are all materially different. Instagram Reels is not the same as YouTube Shorts. So the loss of that specific community, the environment, and the content is why this is a big deal. A lot of creators can start over, but it's going to take time to adjust to everything unless all of them just decide to pick the same app And even then, it's not a sure thing. There's a lot of people who make their livelihood and they're living off of TikTok, who've built careers. I built my career from one TikTok. And look, maybe it does pick up where it left off. Maybe everybody does pick the same app, and a lot of those people who engage with you transfer over, but it won't be for everybody. And I just want to let everybody know, if you're worried right now, and if you're somebody who makes stuff on TikTok or a vertical video creator on anywhere else, I know this feels hard, but as somebody who has tried really hard to get to where he is and fucked up so many times, it's bad, but you can 100% get through it and be made whole eventually. There are ways to make these platforms recognize you, especially if you had an audience before. Those people followed you because they like you. Okay, you make good shit. And of course, it's also going to be a massive learning curve. If you're moving from TikTok to YouTube, oh, you got some shit to learn. It's like moving to a new city. It takes a lot of time, a lot of frustration. It is demoralizing, but ultimately it is rewarding, and you will be stronger when you come out of this. And I promise you, it's not the end. If you're good at this shit, if you love to post random shit, post it somewhere. Just because TikTok doesn't exist doesn't mean people aren't looking for that kind of stuff. The reason TikTok got big is because they were. But anyway, if you're a TikTok creator, let me know what you think in the comments. If you're somebody who loves TikTok, let me know what you think in the comments. If you're someone who hates TikTok, just let me know what you think. That being said, on to our big story of the week, and I'm going to change and look a lot more tired for this one. It's 2025. You made it. 1 year after one of the most contentious elections in American history. And apparently, the intermission between that was insane. But if you followed elections before, you know we're about to go into this whole post-election afterglow cycle that's not as intense as what we just had, but can still be incredibly exhausting and frustrating if you don't know what to look out for. You're probably already getting that sinking feeling of, oh, motherfucker, again, as every political head on X or news headline or party surrogate tries to feed you poison from your phone. But listen, there is a way for you to stay informed over what's going to happen over the next few months and not literally drink the poison people are trying to force feed you to build their own case, or worse, make you fodder for their next fucking podcast so they could sell a sponsorship. And it's important to cut through that noise, especially right now, because everyone in media is trying to define what the next 12 months, or honestly, what the first 100 days of Donald Trump's new presidency will be. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's actually happened over the last few weeks, how much of each side's narrative is actually true, and what to actually expect so you could keep sane and not spiral through the media spin over the next year. And let's start with, what is each political party or side wanting us to feel about America right now? Every political affiliation across the spectrum, including Democrat, Republican, leftist, MAGA, communist, lefto, anarchist, truther, I don't know what you are. Fucking all of them are trying to define what America is right now in this small little intermission period. So for example, around right-wing news outlets, and don't worry, I got smoke for every political affiliation, the prevailing narrative is true America is back, baby! Strength, honor, and decency. Yeah, I know this fucking guy, but just bear with me. Have returned to the White House. We just keep racking up W's, and those DEI pussies get to cope and seethe. But also somehow,
the true logical thinkers have returned to the mainland to help us create a more enlightened, intelligent society, away from the rampant savagery and debauchery. Up yours, woke loyalists.
It's a weird, contradictory combo. I saw somebody call Trump the peace candidate and then co-sign him when he said he wouldn't rule out military action to try to annex Greenland. Yeah, okay. So look, let's state the obvious. Right-wing media and news projection of all is well in the kingdom and everybody is super jacked about the American strongman type returning isn't really square with a few very messy weeks of Trump's transition. In between the controversial cabinet picks and dropouts, friction with leadership choices, backlash from some very prejudiced supporters, and some pushback from world leaders Trump is going to have to immediately work with, Donald is starting to see some very stark realities to that mandate he spoke about. Like Mike Johnson edging out that speakership vote after an endorsement from Donald Trump in a very divided House of Representatives. This presents a very worrying sign for Trump's agenda. Once again, I just want to remind you, Republicans lost 2 seats in the House in the 2024 election. Also, Matt Gaetz and the budget resolution, you get it. Secondly, in terms of that purported anti-woke cultural shift that everybody's talking about is definitely happening. Look, I'm not gonna lie, there are some companies who are trying to anticipate that culture shift and trying to cozy up to Trump in different ways and comply, but acting as if that means every single company or even the vast majority of companies also doesn't necessarily square with the reality of the situation. So most recently, let's take Meta, for example, right? Announcing that they were doing away with their fact-checking team in lieu of implementing community notes similar to X. Another thing that's being widely reported is Meta actually changed their abusive speech rules alongside that community note rule and lessened some of the penalties, making it so that pejorative things like calling a trans person it or questioning LGBTQ identifying people as having a mental illness are now suddenly allowed on the platform. Now, obviously, that's some pretty shitty methodology, right? No moderation on stuff like that isn't going to make your platform, which is, by the way, also known for volatility. Facebook conversations weren't all sunshine and rainbows, feel less volatile compared to the already increasingly volatile competition, which, by the way, is one of the reasons people are flocking to your platform. But secondly, and most importantly, I actually don't think it's going to play out the way Zuck thinks it is. Or at least people who are super jazzed about this decision think it is. Aside from the fact that that lack of moderation originally led to having some of Meta's worst scandals in the history of their company, which were bipartisanly condemned, Meta is attempting to try to have their cake and eat it too. Look, if you look at the way Zuckerberg announced this and the way the policy is implemented, it's largely attempting to try to make the policing of hate speech manual. And if you followed Mark Zuckerberg and his decisions of how he manages his social media platforms over the last decade or so, you'll realize this is pretty in line with how Facebook approaches major platform shifts and controversy. Zuckerberg is always like, listen, we're gonna take a stand over there and then see how it plays out and then pivot. Okay, bye! But look, even looking through the annals of Facebook history, you can see the contrast between Zuck and Elon here. I'm not praising Zuckerberg, but look at what Elon does. Elon Musk very clearly thumbs the scales to what he thinks is right. Even before he was politically minded, he would do that at Tesla all the fucking time. Oh shit, you don't like this fucking car design? Well, that's the fucking design! I want my car to be able to make fart noises. I want people to see my tweets no matter fucking what. Oh, what, you blocked me? Now you can see other blocked people's profiles. You just can't respond. Oh, you're talking shit on Alan Dittman? Well, now negative content will be undervalued on this platform. Elon, baby! Once again, this is not a defense of fucking Mark Zuckerberg. Jesus. Zuckerberg, with the way he moderates his platforms, is just somebody who wants Facebook to function openly so Facebook can fucking run itself and be like the mayor of the internet, while Zucks takes credit for opening up the world. But while all of that happens, Zuckerberg actively is hedging his bets on all culture all of the time, so he doesn't necessarily lose. So the fact that he's lessening restrictions on political content and making the community police itself does mean that there's going to be more right-wing users who come to the platform. However, Zucks is also counting that if it's unpopular, enough community noting and enough backlash will make it work itself out. Particularly, the community notes on X have been very left-leaning at times, criticizing a lot of right-wing misinformation. As well, a lot of the users on Threads are former X users who left because they didn't like what fucking Elon did to Twitter, making it all right-wing and shit. So naturally, the demographics within Threads would weed all of this out. But if Zuckerberg is wrong, well then fucking he's still technically right because he opened everything up. Oh, look at the nice man. So one thing I do want to stress about this change, it is 100% hedging your bets, and Zuckerberg saying,
let them fight.
So the speech will probably become more volatile on Threads, but if enough people are frustrated and call out the speech, which it will be called out, there is a good chance that the culture won't function too well on the platform, like I said. And if people just don't like that, they'll just fucking move to Blue Sky. Very quickly, an update. I did see Zuckerberg's interview with Joe Rogan. And no, my opinion has not changed. Zuckerberg is still hedging in this interview. He's still playing up to that base specifically to get certain things that he wants. Like when Mark Zuckerberg is passionate about something like the metaverse and AI, he moves mountains to make those happen and makes big, risky plays. This seems relatively muted compared to all of that. And he's done stuff like this before when he wants to hedge rules changes because he knows they're going to be unpopular. He knows that one side of the aisle is not going to be happy with them. And he ultimately knows that he wants to be like this pragmatic person as much as possible. So if it backfires, he can be like, oh no, I just wanted to see what would happen. Again, not a defense of Mark Zuckerberg, but an insight into what this kind of a person is. And I do really suggest that as we move forward, you have to understand what drives people to try to get their intentions and figure out how they're going to move. Because if all you do is just say like, oh, they're just rich, so they just do rich people things, that's a myopic view of how some of these people operate, and it leads to big shocks and surprises when crazy shit happens. But you can more effectively fight against bad policy if you know what makes it tick. And secondly, if you're worried about diversity in media, specifically between identities and everything like that, don't be. Because of capitalism. Yay! If you've ever heard the term go woke, go broke, you should objectively know that that's a fucking stupid term. Because the reason a lot of people add diversity to projects is because it makes them fucking money. A study by Deloitte or Deloitte, I don't know how you pronounce it, constructed in March of 2024, highlighted the general consensus that audiences want diversity with their content and expect it. Now, let's be real. There is such a thing as forced diversity or pandering instead of actually doing stuff those marginalized communities like, just tokenizing them or checking off a box without materially adding their identity to this project, which always dilutes the whole thing. But projects in development haven't shifted drastically to not include minority markets. Now, that's not to say there haven't been any effects on identity politics. Obviously, hiring is still a huge issue, and there is damage from this on college acceptance rates. But for every story like McDonald's ending some of its DEI programs, somehow people don't notice Costco's board of directors protecting theirs. Not everything companies do is for optics, but when the optics impede the function of that company doing its work better, they'll just do the thing anyway. The headlines you have read around all of this stuff, I'm gonna be very honest, are meant to kind of freak you out a little bit. But if everybody is worried about something and the headlines around it are, this is fucking crazy, right? Usually it means it's not going well for whatever somebody's pushing. But if you want me to say it plainly, and if you're worried, no. The anti-woke movement has not convinced the majority of America to immediately hate minorities and just all be Trump sycophants, okay? That's still a bridge a majority of Americans are not down with, or like as much as the bridge that they are currently crossing. Lastly, the idea that Elon and Ramaswamy and all these logic prophets have taken over, you fucking saw the Visa thing, right? Elon Musk is like the 11 billionth guy who swaddles up to Trump and then fumbles the bag through friction with Trump. Obviously, Trump right now is backing him up on the visas, but there have been reports of strife between the two, between Elon and the team as well. And no, it's not all smooth sailing. Elon, Trump, and Ramaswamy all love the bully pulpit and use it on X and the press all of the time. But here's the thing, Musk is not a popular addition to Trump's team. And you can see that because X has had a huge user exodus since Elon joined Trump's team, not only to Blue Sky, but to Threads as well, before Zuck's announcement. Again, let's look at Threads before Zuck's announced all this shit today. It's now at 300 million active users. That's 35 million less than X, but that gap itself was 3 times bigger 3 months ago. And Blue Sky is growing by 9.3%. That's fucking insane. From 5 million to 20 million monthly active users in like a month. That is not a good sign for the X platform, which wants to be the dominant leader in this space. So despite all of the narratives that all is well and everybody's just super down and it's just going to be Republican central, this has been a messy transition, all right? Messier than Trump would have liked and not exactly what he expected when he won against Kamala Harris. Now, that being said, how messy is it then? Well, let's look at the Democrats' narrative for you. Because I don't know if you've heard, but judging by their Twitter feeds, we're all dead. Yes, apparently in the last 4 weeks, Republicans have built a large moon-like object that's just a bunch of stacks of legislation that's flawless and will not have any problems and will be immediately passed on day one. So buckle up, everybody. We're about to get fucked in the face. Did you know that Trump is going to implement tariffs and then everybody will have to pay more for oxygen? And then he's going to invade Greenland. By the way, just to let you know, since Trump won, all of the American militias started a group chat and they bought 1 million machine guns. And they're going to be doing machine gun parades down every street in the United States like the fucking Rose Bowl. Do you know that Trump plans to make it so that LGBTQ people and Muslims can't walk on sidewalks anymore? Take that, the woke left. Fuck, I have to use a fucking bike lane now. The Democratic Party talking points right now are that everything is corroding -12 days before the inauguration. So wouldn't Biden still be in charge? What the fuck? Obviously, you get my sarcasm, and I'm not gonna act like Trump's wild bluster isn't wild. It's crazy. The Greenland thing was fucking crazy, and the pundits on Twitter backing him up, even crazier. Yeah, and really bad for like foreign relations. But again, it is day -11. Trump really hasn't done much substantially except for create really bad optics for his party and lose nominations. The amount of people saying buckle up, but also implying that you and everybody else have a lack of agency right now are trying to set you up for this feeling of helplessness so you're motivated 2 years from now to vote. And look, obviously, I get the sentiment to want to motivate people. I am not happy with the people who are in control of the Senate and the presidency. I do not think this is going to be a great next 4 years in terms of politics in this country. But honestly, Democrats, come the fuck on. Did you not see at all the national mood after the election? People were genuinely terrified, threatening to unalive themselves. Again, after 2 campaigns that were run and exhausted people with fear-mongering and how pejorative they really were. Trying to shift people into these weird Rebel Alliance resistance memes versus trying to organize in a way to aid people from the sincere ramifications that might actually happen. Apparently, pundits seem to think that the former is way more important. And there's a specific lesson we've been saying for 4 years that people seem to forget in times like this. And it's don't feed the fucking trolls. Talking about the rally or showing the rally on CNN all the time boosts the profile of the rally, even if you're shit talking it. Obviously, there's a way to criticize things, but giving attention to insane things that shouldn't deserve attention. Bro, taking all of Donald Trump's bluster at face value has never been a winning strategy. So no, Trump isn't going to invade Greenland. And all the pundits and people jockeying around that are trying to project rebelliousness need outrage to let that message spread. You're doing that by being outraged, okay? Also, I do want to say, I think it's incredibly insidious, like fucking Jill Stein levels of insidious, to scare the shit out of people and fuck with their mental health just to get a voting edge in 2026. Trust me, if the policies are bad, people will notice. And at a certain point, liberals, leftists, Democrats, Greens, I don't fucking care, anybody, have to realize running a campaign of what you're against will not work if people aren't motivated for what they're for. If Donald Trump would have lost in November, this country would still have had a lot of issues it would need to fix and still need substantial work in order to get there. And a lot of Harris's policies address some of those issues, but there were a ton of blind spots echoed by so many people. And just because Trump is in power doesn't mean that we can't organize and start messaging about what things we want to make better and run on in 2026 and 2028. That's just what happens in political environments. And getting super mad at some douchebag for not shaking Kamala Harris's hand at the inauguration ceremony, why is that what you're spending your energy on? Who fucking cares? She didn't care. She's like, all right, well, fucking okay. But look, I get it. It's scary. You hear news about Pierre Poilievre in Canada and Justin Trudeau stepping down. You see Meta undoing fact checkers. It looks like, oh my God, it's happening. But look, not every sound you hear in your house when the lights are out is a xenomorph sneaking up behind you, okay? Except for you, Ripley. Ripley, that's a xenomorph. It's always going to be there. But if you're not Ripley, what should you look out for? Like I said, in Trump's first 100 days and leading up to his inauguration, you're going to hear a lot of bluster and culture war bullshit. Trump is going to make these big, controversial, sweeping fucking moves and declarations and shit talk, and they'll probably get a ton of pushback. And if the pushback is real, sustained, and the brand of Republicans is at all damaged, Trump will pull back or his Republican allies will make him. Now, conversely, Democrats are going to make everything DEFCON 5. If Trump passes over an apple strudel, there will be a whole thing about how, oh my God, he's destroying the culture of strudel and apples. And look, some stuff may be DEFCON 5, but not the apple strudel, and not everything. Not everything is going to be DEFCON 5. And keeping that energy there is going to wear people the fuck out. And as for the media, they're going to report on anything salacious or anything that gets clicks. I'm going to also say it's not always technically malicious. They live in a bubble too, all right? They're people who fucking live in an industry that forces them to make you go, whoa, so they can get clicks on stuff. But every story is going to have some degree of narrative that is either Trump is fumbling the bag, or Trump is actually a political genius, or will Trump actually change here? And what is going on with Tom and Zendaya? Are they married yet? Oh my God. Do yourself a favor and be realistic about how urgent or how DEFCON 5 or how honest those sources you have are. Look at multiple sources. Pay attention to stuff that matters. Fight things that you need to, and also figure out ways that you yourself can move forward. Because again, this isn't gonna be forever. It's day -12. Guys, you don't have to choose between being miserable and informed by the news cycle and being happy and oblivious to it. Those are not your only two binary choices. You still can accomplish shit this year, even with an administration that's terrible and shitty. Again, I am part of a community that's going to get a rash of shit. And I have goals to accomplish even with this dude in office thumbing the scale against people who look like me and have my political affiliation, right? And I'm gonna do those fucking things because I don't give a fuck about this guy. And listen, even with the obstacles that come in your way, you can too. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy. It's not gonna be snap your fingers and oh my God, it all happens, right? It's going to be tough, but I need to counteract some of that poison that you're listening to. It's not this like, oh, I just have to be sad and cross my arms the whole fucking time, all right? Once again, the tournament hasn't even started yet, all right? Take a breath, get your bearings, and send some water to California because it's fucking crazy out here, guys. Lastly, one more update before we go about the fires. So first off, good news. The fires have gotten a little bit better. Some of them are more contained, reaching anywhere from 11 to 15% containment. Bad news. The fires have also gotten way fucking worse. The Palisades fire is now threatening UCLA and at one point was actually moving towards my side of town. Really fucking scary. A bunch of the city was getting assigned evacuation zones. Not that they need to evacuate yet, but they were just assigned a zone. And there were a bunch of regions getting assigned like a few miles away. And I was like, what the fuck? Why are you assigning? No, stop. Why are you assigning regions? Is something going on? Do you know something? What the? But thankfully, the firefighters were able to hold off the Palisades fire from crossing over the freeway. Now they're trying to stop it from crossing into UCLA. They are doing the best they fucking can. I cannot tell you how hard firefighters have been working. And again, this isn't just like 2 fires. There are like 8 to 12 fires firefighters have been fighting over the last few days. And all these other motherfuckers who were saying that, oh, LA is gonna be like Mad Max again. It's just a selfish bunch of assholes. It's every man for himself. Fuck all of you. This city has come together. So many people are donating food, volunteering, trying to help everyone else out. This city has been doing its damnedest to the point that certain places are saying, hey, we don't need any more donations. We're actually okay. Some people are even visiting small businesses and restaurants when they don't have that much money to buy a meal so those small mom and pop businesses can stay open. It's like a COVID sequel. Without, oh my God, he was also president then. Oh God, fuck. It's very heartening to see the outpouring and see so many people call out bad faith actors too. Giving shit to motherfuckers who are like, oh, it's only rich people. LA, Altadena, Pasadena, the Palisades, all of these have amazing people and they are all hurting right now. If you can, go to the description, click on one of the links to donate, and please donate whatever you can. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We have so much content that we're working on right now. These fires just threw a wrench into everything, but I'm excited to get you guys more. And I'll be with you this whole year, freestyling the news and hopefully getting through the craziness. But anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go.